Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 150 based on novel. So let's start. The sudden appearance of Witha changed the look on the faces of the strong fighting emperors outside the court at the moment. Even they were also difficult to find such a ghostly speed, not to mention Xiao Yan, a mere half-emperor. What a terrible speed, Xiao Yan, it's going to be bad. At this moment, the only thought in everyone's heart was that Xiao Yan would die. Such a close distance, if there is no prior preparation, let alone Xiao Yan, even those who fight the emperor and the strong around, can't do it. On the void not far away from the scene, Zhuolin stared at Xiao Yan at the moment. He believed that since Xiao Yan could survive in the hands of the four major sect leaders, if he didn't have a hard foundation, he wouldn't live until now. Sure enough, in the eyes of the people, when the huge sword was about to fall on Xiao Yan's head, Xiao Yan gently raised his eyes, and the essence flickered in the depths of his eyes. Ha ha, Xiao Yan, die. I'll give your body to Zhongmen for you. Laughter came from Huobi's mouth. At the same time, the huge sword in his hand also fell heavily. But at the next moment, when Huobi's huge sword fell hard and passed through Xiao Yan's body, the look in his eyes suddenly changed at this moment. This residual shadow. How is this possible? Huobi was filled with horror, which was unbelievable. Xiao Yan, who was clearly under his mediation the moment before, how could there be only a remnant in less than a blink of an eye? This kind of thing is really too incredible. When this scene appeared in the eyes of everyone on the court, not only Huobi, but also the strong fighting emperor at the moment, as well as Zhuolin and Zhuobentang behind Huobi, their faces also changed. Zhuolin was fine. Although he was surprised at the scene in front of him, he had expected it for a long time. Seeing the shadow of Xiao Yan disappearing under the huge sword, he quickly settled his mind. But on the contrary, those who stood outside the war situation were shocked by the strange scene in front of them. At such a close distance, facing the blow of a three-star fighting emperor, Xiao Yan disappeared so abruptly without their awareness. It's terrible. How on earth did this guy do it? I'm afraid even if he was Tianjueba, with his only half-emperor strength, he couldn't make his speed terrible to this extent. This guy isn't human. A group of strong fighting emperors stared at the residual shadow of Xiao Yan gradually dispersed on the field, but the horror in their hearts was even worse. Little Lord, I didn't expect Xiao Yan to. If he can become a joint wanted criminal of the four major sects, he won't have two brushes. Even what you see at the moment, I believe it's just the tip of the iceberg of Xiao Yan's real strength. If you really let him do his best, I'm afraid it's hard to win him with the full strength of our two families. Zhuobentang's voice didn't fall. Zhuolin then shook his head and smiled softly. While saying this, Zhuolin's eyes suddenly turned at the moment and looked at the void somewhere above the square. At the same time, there, a figure dressed in black robes was slowly stepping out of the void to see who it was, not Xiao Yan. When Zhuobentang heard Zhuolin's words again, he couldn't help frowning for me. He thought for a moment. Then he looked at Zhuolin in front of him and frowned. Young master, these words make my subordinates feel a bit arrogant. When these words fell, Zhuolin immediately raised his eyebrows and smiled. Immediately, he glanced at the latter obliquely and smiled calmly. You say I'm self-defeating. With Huobagang's skill, do you think you can hide? As soon as he said this, Zhuobentang looked a little stunned. His mouth opened slightly, but he still frowned and didn't say anything. Although he didn't want to admit it, Zhuobentang understood that with Huobagang's skill, even if it was him, he was not sure that he could escape, while Xiao Yan strangely hid under the eyes of so many strong fighters. It was enough for him to sigh that he was inferior. But little lord, his Xiao Yan is just the power of the next day. Otherwise, with his little half-emperor, how can he compare with Huobatang's three-star fighting emperor? You said Xiao Yan borrowed the power of Tianjuebu. Didn't he rely on the strength of fighting the emperor? Fight with people according to their abilities. Never put the word fairness in your heart. Otherwise, you would fight him with the strength of six-star and half-emperor? When Zhuobentang stagnated and his words had not yet been uttered, Zhuolin immediately said, You should be glad that you are a three-star fighting emperor. Otherwise, it's really uncertain what the result is now. Even Sun Hanshi, a star fighting emperor, died in Xiao Yan's hand. Opponents of the same level are like mud to him. Step on them if you want. As soon as this remark came out, Zhuobentang also completely revived. When he thought that Sun Hanshi was a strong man fighting the emperor, he died in the hands of Xiao Yan. How powerful should he be? With this in mind, Zhuo Bentang could not help spilling a trace of cold sweat on his wrinkled forehead. Then he realized that Xiao Yang's power was much stronger than he thought. It was already so at the semi-imperial level. It was hard to imagine how terrible Xiao Yang's real power would be after Xiao Yang completely grew up over time. In the void, Zhuo Lin and Hu Bie's eyes looked at Xiao Yang, who appeared somewhere in the void at the moment. The former's eyes implied solemnity, but also with a bit of banter. As for Hu Bie, he has an iron blue face. He is a 3-star fighting emperor. He will be avoided from a fatal blow in such a short distance. The most irritating thing is that the person who avoids his attack is only a small 6-star and a half emperor. This kind of person, if put in the ordinary, Hu Bie is definitely a slap in the face, but Xiao Yang now makes him both surprised and angry. Wheezing. Xiao Yang, who is now born, breathes heavily in his mouth, just like he has experienced some violent exercise. The whole person's breath can't help but fluctuate up and down. Although Xiao Yang perfectly avoided the blow just now, the other party was a strong man fighting the emperor after all. While Xiao Yang tried his best to urge Chenjue step, it was also an extremely huge consumption of fighting spirit in his body. The move just now consumed nearly 1/5 of Xiao Yang's fighting spirit at the moment. Of course, in direct proportion to it, Xiao Yang also avoided Hu Bie's sudden blow. Even if you are lucky enough to avoid it once, you will never have a second time. His face was gloomy and he scolded in a low voice. Then Hu Bie's body was suddenly shocked, and he rushed to Xiao Yang again. With what just happened, this time, Hu Bie didn't dare to have any carelessness. At the moment when his body flashed, his body turned into a bright streamer, like a star in the night sky. At this speed, it was undoubtedly more terrible than before. Even though they were separated by 100 feet, it was only a matter of a moment in the eyes of the strong man fighting the emperor. Then the next moment, Hu Bie's strong body appeared in front of Xiao Yang again like a wall. The huge sword in his hand was held high above the top. At the moment when his body appeared, the huge sword in his hand was with an incomparably fierce blade momentum, full to Xiao Yang. At the same time, Xiao Yang's face quickly became fierce. He put the Shen heavy ruler into the ring with his backhand. When his steps changed, Chenjue's step came out immediately. Then the next moment, everyone present clearly saw that Xiao Yang's body turned into a breeze out of thin air at the moment when Hu Bie's giant sword fell, disappeared on this square. Hiss. Then, the giant sword in Hu Bie's hand was cut empty again. He was suddenly surprised in his heart. Then Hu Bie suddenly turned his eyes and looked at a place above the void at the moment. Xiao Yang's body appeared again. Drink. Xiao Yang died. At the same time, Hu Bie's body flashed again at a very fast speed. At the same time, Xiao Yang's body shape also flashed up again and again with Hu Bie's riots. The power of the avenue cooperated with the magic of Chenjue's step, which made Xiao Yang always seize the opportunity and hide Hu Bie's fierce attack. For a moment, the latter couldn't help Xiao Yang. Outside, Zhuo Lin and Zhuo Bentang quietly observed the situation in the field, but they didn't mean to take action at all. Hu Bie naturally noticed this. He knew that the hungry wolf of the Zhuo family would never do anything without meat. Therefore, he stopped Hu Tianyi, who had originally planned to come forward to help, so that someone on his side could contain the Zhuo family at the moment. No, once Hu Tianyi and his strength were consumed by Xiao Yang in front of him, by that time, even if they catch Xiao Yang, it's just a wedding dress for the Zhuo family. This is not what Hu Bie can do willingly. Bang! Finally, after a long time of chasing after each other, Xiao Yang couldn't escape Hu Bie's pursuit. Although the collision between the two was only a short moment, Xiao Yang was shocked back hundreds of feet by the latter's blow. Under the blow, he actually fell on the edge of the square. At this moment, behind Xiao Yang, there was an endless abyss beyond sight, and the soles of his feet. It was a coincidence that he stepped on the edge of the square. Although he had not really failed, Xiao Yang seemed to have felt it and quickly retracted. Xiao Yang, you can run very well. Now, I see where you can run. His body moved, and in a twinkling of an eye, Hu Bie stood not far away from Xiao Yang. He stared at Xiao Yang in front of him and ate his blow. I believe Xiao Yang at the moment must be seriously injured. After all, no matter how he compares, he is a strong 3-star fighting emperor. In front of the real fighting emperor, no matter how powerful the half-emperor will be eclipse. Hiss. The huge sword in his hand was violently shocked, and the unparalleled sword chi suddenly surged, making the void around him hum and tremble. Then, a terrible force swept out of Hu Bie's body and oppressed Xiao Yang at this time. Then the next moment, he felt the terrible momentum that suddenly fell over his head. Xiao Yang's face was slightly pale due to the lack of fighting spirit. At the moment, he became bloodless, and his nose couldn't help but give a stuffy hum. Xiao Yang frowned, and his mind moved. The fighting spirit flowing through the meridians in his body immediately began to work. He wanted to use it to resist the momentum of the latter. Unfortunately, under the powerful momentum of Witha, even at the moment, the running speed of the fighting spirit in Xiao Yang was greatly affected, and it was even more impossible to compete with it. Ha ha, it's a mayfly shaking a tree. With your only half-emperor's strength, you think too much of yourself if you want to resist my majesty. Aware of the change in Xiao Yang's body, Witha grinned with disdain. As for Zhuo Lin, who was outside the court at the moment, when he saw this scene, he couldn't help frowning slightly. Zhuo Bentang, who was on the side, first picked his eyebrows and immediately smiled at Zhuo Lin. Young lord, are you thinking about Xiao Yang again? Yes. Zhuo Lin nodded lightly, which was an answer. Hehe, young lord, Xiao Yang thinks too much. Even if he has extraordinary strength and excellent cultivation talent, even if he is so rebellious, the reality is cruel. His strength is only half-emperor, not fighting emperor. The strong half-emperor can never be the opponent of the strong fighting emperor. Even if he kills Sun Hanshi, it can only prove that he is his puppet. I'm afraid I'm a little too focused. Zhuo Bentang stared at Zhuo Lin in front of him with respectful tone. Oh, I really think too much of him. Hearing the speech, Zhuo Lin turned his head slowly and stared at Zhuo Bentang. His eyes were calm and terrible. Ah! Seeing Zhuo Lin show this creepy look again, Rao is an old man of Zhuo Ben Hall. Unexpectedly, he also feels cold with a broken back. Zhuo Lin took back his eyes without fluctuation, and fell on Xiao Yang again. The reason why my Zhuo family can't replace the 4 main doors is that they are complacent and don't eat the past. Suddenly, such a sentence made Zhuo Bentang suddenly change his face, without waiting for him to make a voice to stop him. Zhuo Lin immediately opened his mouth and said, "It's not that I think Xiao Yang is too high, but you, who boast of being a strong fighter against the emperor. No one on the mainland is your opponent. I don't know the truth that there are people outside. Have you ever seen that the second person except Xiao Yang understands the power of the road at the semi-emperor level? This? No. You haven't seen it, but it doesn't mean you don't. My Zhuo family looks at the whole Yuanwu continent, but it's just a frog at the bottom of a well. But what do you think can be better about the so-called 4 main doors?" One cold rebuke was full of self-mockery. As the eldest son of the Zhuo family, looking at the whole western region, Zhuo Lin was a talented person who could be called heaven's indulgence. Naturally, in his heart, he also had his own wolf ambition. Perhaps in the eyes of others, the 4 major sects were already the top forces living in the western region. It was lucky to join them. Even in the Zhuo family where Zhuo Lin lives, many people in the family have the same idea, but what is different from them is that in Zhuo Lin's view, it is destiny to make himself the future leader of Tianjian Gate. Even so, Tianjian Gate is just his starting point. Under the powerful power, the so-called 4 major gates, in his eyes, it is just a stepping stone. In the future, he will not be limited to this. Of course, it also depends on how the family behind him will choose. If the Zhuo family is willing to take him as the leader and devote all the strength of the whole family to send him to the height of the temple, the future Zhuo family will certainly rise, but otherwise, their Zhuo family will be imprisoned in a small corner of the mainland for generation. If a man wants to do something, he must not stick to small things, let alone be complacent and stubborn. As for now, let's see. Xiao Yang can survive under the joint efforts of the 4 major sects. How can a reckless man Hubei deal with it easily? After a cold reprimand, Zhuo Lin finally became silent and stopped talking. As for the Zhuo Bentang on the side, he stared at Zhuo Lin in front of him. He never thought that his young master was young and could have such a mind. But he lamented that he was inferior. Mu Lu sighed in his heart with admiration. After that, Luo Bentang also turned his eyes to Xiao Yang in the field at the moment. After Zhuo Lin's words, he also believed that Xiao Yang in front of him was not as simple as they looked. Of course, for the dialogue between the 2 people, at the moment, other people on the field naturally don't know. They stare at Xiao Yang in the field with all kinds of eyes. Their eyes are either suspicious, compassionate, or full of sneers. It seems that Xiao Yang has entered the situation of death. In the field at the moment, Hubei raised a disdainful smile at the corners of his mouth. The rest of his eyes glanced at the Zhuo family behind him. Seeing that they had no action, he couldn't help but doubt in his heart. At the same time, Hubei walked towards Xiao Yang with a huge sword in his hand. 10 feet away, he walked for 2 minutes. In front of Xiao Yang, The latter's face looked dignified at the moment, with terrible pressure on his head, sweating profusely, but it was cold sweat. Huobiye looked at it carefully, which made him wonder that Xiao Yang's face, which should have been pale, was red at this time, just like being roasted by fire. Then Huobiye casually skipped these details. His left hand slowly stretched out, and gradually expanded with the sneer at the corners of his mouth. Finally, he slowly printed it on Xiao Yang's chest. Just a half-emperor, dare to act recklessly in front of the emperor. It's as easy for me to kill you as to crush an ant. Huobiye sneered sarcastically. At the same time, the palm printed on Xiao Yang's chest was also slightly shocked. Then, the terrible fighting spirit surged out of his palm like a volcanic eruption. Then the next moment was to completely pierce Xiao Yang's whole body from front to back. Seeing that Xiao Yang's body was pierced again, Huobiye's eyes suddenly coagulated, and his palm was suddenly clenched into a fist. Damn it! Is it a remnant again? He scolded with hatred in his heart. Then the next moment, Huobiye's body suddenly turned back, and a pair of angry eyes suddenly looked at a void in the rear, where a figure covered by black robes was slowly emerging. When the figure appeared, Zhuolin, who had been staring at Xiao Yang, could not help but frown at this moment, and a suspicion rose in his heart. Staring at the disappearing shadow in front of Huobiye, Zhuolin was even more confused. He had clearly noticed the fluctuation of breath in Xiao Yang's body. It was obvious that he was ready to take action, but now it was quite different from what he thought. What on earth does he want to do? I can't even guess. Zhuolin was surprised. In his memory, the people who could make him unable to guess his actions were only a few people so far. Even those people were people of extraordinary status in the whole western region, but Xiao Yang in front of him really made him confused. And right now, Huobiye on the field was staring at the black-robed figure suddenly appearing on the void with his eyes. With a sudden wave of the huge sword in his hand, his strong body immediately turned into a shell and rushed away at Xiao Yang on the void. Drink! Xiao Yang! Die! There was a roar of rage in his mouth. Huobiye's body shook again, and his fighting spirit poured out, making the void around him a violent agitation. Between breathing, Huobiye's body appeared in front of the man in black robe. With a big hand, the blade was sharp and fell heavily on the head of the man in black robe. The falling horror sword gang, at the moment of touching the black robe on the black robe body surface, seemed to fall into an endless abyss, and dissipated in an instant. In the void, Zhuolin stared at the black-robed people in the field, and he didn't dare to have the slightest carelessness in his eyes. The so-called those in the game are obsessed and those on the sidelines are clear. As early as before, he noticed the rapid loss of fighting spirit in Xiao Yang's body, but judging from the situation in the end, Xiao Yang obviously didn't make a move. The more so, Zhuolin was more careless. Then, on the void, under the gaze of the people in the audience, the huge sword in Huobiye's hand pierced the body of the man in black again. Seeing this, the people couldn't help feeling a burst of horror for Xiao Yang. On each face, they couldn't help showing a look of staring. I'm afraid that few of the strong fighters present can do it at such a terrible speed. However, this is something that even they can't do. Now, it has been done one after another by a 6-star and a half emperor. This speed can really be called terror. Another shadow. Seeing the black-robed man who suddenly exploded into a milky white cloud under his sword, Huobiye's face became more and more gloomy. His whole body trembled violently because of his anger. He was a strong emperor fighting man, but he killed a 6-star and a half emperor, but he didn't expect to be teased by the other party and his own repeated moves. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yang tried to escape. How can he be calm in his heart? Where can he put aside his face as a strong fighter? The rage in his heart made his anger worse. He never thought that Xiao Yang, a half-emperor, could really bring him so much trouble. Zhuolin saw the black-robed figure bursting in front of Huobiye, but he had another guess in his heart. If the shadow was really just a remnant, it should dissipate with the wind, rather than burst into a thick fog and wrap Huobiye in it. No, this is not a remnant shadow. The remnant shadow can never be like this, but in that case, where is Xiao Yang? Where is Xiao Yang's noumenon? Zhuolin frowned and wondered more. Since this is not the shadow of Xiao Yang, nor the noumenon, where is Xiao Yang at the moment? He can't really disappear on this square out of thin air. Damn it. Xiao Yang, are you a loach? If you have the ability, fight with me. The roar sounded on the square. Huobiye's body was shocked, and the fighting spirit in his body immediately swept out, quickly dispersed the thick fog around him, and the terrible momentum also swept out of Huobiye's body. It was like a storm, sweeping rapidly on the square. At the same time, a slight hissing sound also came out, but it was perfectly covered up by the sound of the former. But Rao was so. This slight sound was also noticed by Zhuolin, who was absorbed at the moment. This is. A little surprised in his heart, and then Zhuolin, who frowned, suddenly turned his eyes and looked at the edge of the square, which was where Xiao Yang stood. Just now, Hubei scattered a remnant of Xiao Yang with his hand, but at the moment, Zhuolin clearly realized that the place where the hissing sound came from just now was there. Can you say? At the same time, Zhuolin felt terrible for Xiao Yang's crazy move. But the next moment, a dark shadow flashed over the square like a thunder. That direction was where Hubei stood at the moment. The shadow passed by, but the surrounding void was abnormal. It did not cause any change, and even the flowing wind in the air was not affected at all. Little Lord, Zhuo Bentang, standing beside Zhuolin, naturally noticed the sudden black light, such a terrible speed. Even he couldn't help feeling a little tight in his heart. Immediately, the look on his old face changed slightly, and the fighting spirit in his body gushed out quickly, so he wanted to hand it out. Although their relationship is not friendly, at least now they are all on the united front. He can't see Hubei's accident. Wait, have you forgotten what I just said? Stay here, Hubei, as a 3-star fighting emperor, is not so easy to deal with. If we don't fight, naturally someone will be more anxious than us. When Zhuo Bentang was ready to take action, Zhuolin stopped him with one hand. At the same time, he faintly spit out a sentence in his mouth. His eyes turned and looked at Hutiani above the void. Seeing this, Zhuo Bentang realized that his frown stretched out, and the turbulent fighting spirit in his body gradually calmed down at this moment. Compared with the two of them, Hutiani was naturally most worried at this time. Seeing that the black light had reached Hubei's back in a twinkling of an eye, Hutiani suddenly changed his look and was extremely anxious. He didn't want to think about it. The fighting spirit in the cyclone in his body poured out like money. Then, his body flashed wildly, it was storming away at the black light. In the blink of an eye, the latter has come, but at this time, the black light also appears completely. It is Xiao Yang, no doubt. Until this time, Hu Bafang didn't return to his mind. The moment he suddenly turned his head, he also saw Xiao Yang who suddenly appeared behind him. Xiao Yang. This sudden scene made Hubei's face suddenly stunned, but before he did anything, Xiao Yang blushed and fell heavily on Hubei's back. Broken heart palm. As Xiao Yang shouted angrily in his heart, suddenly, the terrible fighting spirit suddenly poured out of Xiao Yang's palm and crazy poured into Hubei's body. Then, it was like a runaway wild horse, raging wildly in his body. In a twinkling of an eye, Hubei's face turned red and full of blood. The whole body was suddenly cold. Then, under Xiao Yang's palm, he was forcibly blasted out. At the same time, it was Hutiani who finally came late. With a big hand, he also punched heavily on Xiao Yang's chest at the moment. Bang! 2 painful bangs sounded almost at the same time. Then, the crowd saw 2 figures in black robes flying backwards in one direction. Their breath quickly became weak at this moment. After the 2 people stopped their body shape hard, Xiao Yang and Hubei couldn't help spewing out a big mouthful of red blood. Together with their faces, they became white in an instant. Of course, compared with Hubei, Xiao Yang's state is naturally weaker. Although Xiao Yang's heartbreaking palm completely fell on Hubei, as Zhuolin said, Hubei is a strong 3-star fighting emperor after all. Despite the power of Xiao Yang's palm, it is difficult to kill him. At most, it can only make him lose his combat power for a period of time. But Xiao Yang is different from the former. Xiao Yang really paid a big price for this blow. Little Lord, how can Xiao Yang's hand be so abrupt? At this time, Zhuo Bentang in the void also found a clue. He frowned and looked at Zhuolin in front of him. For the latter, he was convinced at the bottom of his heart. Although his age may be much higher than the latter, his mind cannot be judged by age alone. Have you finally found this? Hearing the speech, Zhuolin also slowly breathed out, and his voice was slightly solemn. As soon as he said this, Zhuo Bentang couldn't help frowning. He was even more confused about it. Although Xiao Yang's speed surprised him, it didn't seem to make Zhuolin look like this in front of him. Zhuolin seemed to be aware of the mood in Zhuo Bentang's heart. Then Zhuolin clenched his eyebrows and stared at the pale Xiao Yang in the field. He paused briefly and said in a calm voice, Xiao Yang, since my debut, you are the first person I really admire. If it weren't Hutiani and Hubei, something might have happened. On such a large square, the heroes stood erect, and dozens of strong fighters stared at several people in the field at the moment, especially when their eyes fell on the figure in black robes, they couldn't help but see a shock in their eyes. At this time, Sun Shuror and Narwhal Snake are fighting together, and the battle between Bai Ying and Bai Wang is also quite fierce. However, in this short time, the strength of Narwhal Snake was surprised and improved to the early stage of the 4-star fight, but it seems that it is because of this that the breath in his body temporarily stopped the growth of exaggeration. And this, while letting Sun Shoror secretly relax in his heart, the look on his face is also more dignified. The time limit of his secret method is coming to an end, but the strength of the Narwhal Snake in front of him has surprisingly reached the level of 4-star fighting emperor. Looking at all the people present at the moment, no one will be his opponent. There is a great gap in the actual strength between them. Although he can barely support it now, I believe it won't be long, you'll lose to the Narwhal Snake. As for Bai Ying, as a 3-star fighting emperor, Bai Ying is naturally proud to deal with the North King with only 1-star fighting emperor. However, what bothers him is that the latter's indestructible body of King Kong is useless in the end. In contrast, Bai Ying has to be careful and vigilant in every attack of the North King. The Black Thunder haunted by the North King's body watch can be even terrible. If you don't pay attention to it, even if it is a 3-star fighting emperor, it will inevitably be attacked by the thunder, causing him no small trouble. In order to preserve his strength, Bai Ying didn't try his best. His purpose is not to defeat the North King, but to delay time and take the remaining opportunities, give it all to Xiao Yan. Whether we can end the struggle in the field at the moment does not lie in Bai Wang and Narwhal Snake, but in Xiao Yan. He was the real core figure of the battle. Even if he won in vain, he was just cooperating with his clothes. The reason why he said that earlier was that he expected that the two families would never be willing to take someone out to deal with the North King, which was right in his mind. At the same time, on the other side, in the 3 directions above the void, the people of Xiao Yang, Zhou family and Hu family are standing separately. In addition to the Zhou family at the moment, the other 2 sides, whether Xiao Yang or Hu family, show a dignified expression on their faces at this time. In particular, Hu Tianyi of the Hu family, beside him, Hu Beiyi's face was white, which made people feel frightened. This size was like a dying man. Opposite them, on the void hundreds of feet away, Xiao Yang's face is also an extremely dignified expression. His pale face and a trace of blood hanging at the corner of his mouth are announcing the weakness of Xiao Yang's state at the moment. Even the fighting spirit in his body is completely consumed under the palm just now. The empty body trembled slightly in the void, and the mind could not help but gush out a sense of fatigue. The exertion of Italy-level fighting skills requires not only the huge fighting spirit, but also an extremely huge amount of consumption of soul power. Although Xiao Yang has tried his best, he also knows that he can't give full play to the real power of the broken heart palm after all. Otherwise, with the palm just now, it will be enough to kill Hu Biye, who is the 3-star fighting emperor. In the current situation, it is obvious that the result of broken heart palm is just to make the latter close to serious injury. With this in mind, Xiao Yang couldn't help sighing in his heart. At the same time, when his throat rolled, 2 pills were swallowed into his stomach. Then the next moment, the gentle medicine like a hot spring spread rapidly in Xiao Yang's body. While recovering Xiao Yang's injury, the almost exhausted fighting spirit in the cyclone also recovered rapidly at this moment. What Xiao Yangang just swallowed was 2 third-order pills. 2 third-order pills, even in the eyes of most of the strong fighting emperor, are extremely precious. They will never be willing to take them out before their lives are at stake. However, now, the third-order pills that are enough to make the strong fighting emperor excited are like sugar beans in Xiao Yang's hands and swallowed them without hesitation. Of course, it's also because of the state in his body, so Xiao Yang doesn't dare to swallow more at one time. Otherwise, he has to swallow more than 10 at a time and let himself return to the peak again. Young lord, it's time to do it now. On the void, Zhuo Bentang, standing beside Zhuo Lin, raised a hot color in his eyes. His eyes stared at Xiao Yang in the field, his heart moved, and his fighting spirit surged up again. At the same time, his mouth was also eager to try. Don't worry. Now is not the time. It's better to wait until they finish. Hearing the speech, Zhuo Lin lost his hands behind him, slowly raised a smile at the corners of his mouth, and looked at Hu Tianyi and Xiao Yang in the field. In his eyes, his look gradually became cold. Instead of fighting hard, he prefers to sit down and collect the fishermen at last. He can catch Xiao Yang without effort. Xiao Yang in front of him has brought him too many surprises. Even at this moment, Zhuo Lin can't be sure. Does Xiao Yang have other means at this moment? If so, rash action may make their outcome worse than Hu Biye, which Zhuo Lin doesn't want to see. Xiao Yang. Hello. After Hu Biye took a third-order pill, Hu Tianyi slowly stood up. His voice was very low and hoarse, saying Xiao Yang's name. At the same time, the fighting spirit in his body suddenly gushed out. It was like a dragon going to sea. It was magnificent and amazing. Whoosh! The trembling palm shook slightly. Suddenly, a flash of light flashed through Huitiani's palm. Then, a heavy sword with palm width appeared in Huitiani's hand. When the épée appeared, the majestic fighting spirit in the palm immediately poured into the sword. Then, the dazzling blue light also appeared from the épée. The edge is exposed and the momentum is frightening. As pointed by the heavy sword, the surrounding void is quickly torn apart, and then spread out circles of invisible space ripples, which are like the water surface crossed by the long sword. Then the next moment, Huitian turned his wrist, and the heavy sword in his hand swept through the void in front of him. The terrible sword gang also burst out, with an extremely amazing momentum, thinking of Xiao Yang's fierce attack at this time. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang's pale face looked sharp and awe-inspiring. While accelerating the diffusion of drug power in his body, his big hand shook fiercely, and his black dark heavy ruler immediately fell into his hand. His teeth clenched, his veins rioted, his arms flew, and the huge ruler in his hand soared up and waved rapidly around Xiao Yang's body. Liuhe swimming ruler. He drank hard in his heart, and then the gorgeous different fire slowly emerged on the waving giant ruler. However, compared with the previous, the different fire at this time seemed very dark, and its momentum was not much better than that before. The appearance of this scene made Zhuolin secretly happy. This was exactly what he wanted to see. He could take Xiao Yang without effort. Although he lost his fighting spirit inheritance, as long as he could bring Xiao Yang back, it could also make up for the loss of his heritage trip. As for Xiao Yang, he is indeed the biggest enemy Zhuolin has ever met. Even those people in the 4 main doors, Zhuolin believes, can't be compared with Xiao Yang in front of him. Although the strength of those guys also reached the level of fighting emperor, they were much worse than Xiao Yang in front of them. It is precisely because of this that all threats are strangled in the cradle, which is Zhuolin's style of doing things. In his eyes, anyone who has the ability to pose a threat to him is an enemy. Once he has the opportunity to get rid of him, Zhuolin will never be stingy. Even if he is a clansman, he will show no mercy. So far, there are many strong people in the Zhuo family who have died because of him, but no one has found the evidence. With a smile in his heart, Zhuolin's silent fighting spirit also flows quietly without outsiders' awareness. When the time comes, as long as he is willing, he can burst out frightening power at any time. Until now, Zhuo Bentang beside him still focused on Xiao Yang in this moment field. It seems that he is still waiting for the instructions of the person in front of him. Bang! At the same time, Huitiani and Xiao Yang on the void also collided at the moment. The terrible sword gang and Xiao Yang's Liuhe swimming ruler collided fiercely. Suddenly, a thunderous roar blew up on the square, and the powerful fighting energy turned into a storm and swept across the square. Under the powerful sword gang, Xiao Yang's hand movement also couldn't help but pause. The great force poured out, and quickly poured into Xiao Yang's arms along the huge ruler in his hand. The numbness immediately invaded and made Xiao Yang's arms lose consciousness for a moment. Then Huitiani took the heavy sword in his hand and bullied him. The heavy sword broke through the air with the sound of hunting. In the twinkling of an eye, he came to Xiao Yang. He waved the heavy sword and fell head-on to Xiao Yang. At this time, Xiao Yang also recovered his mind, waved his arm, held the heavy ruler in his hand, and collided with the heavy sword that fell head-on. Suddenly, the sound of gold and iron collision like thunder came out, and sparks burst out. Xiao Yang withdrew backward. Then, as soon as he turned his body, he collided again. Dang dang! On the void, 2 figures collided back and forth, and the deafening sound of metal and iron collision continued to blow in everyone's ears. However, when they stared at it, the 2 people in the field actually fought up and down. After 100 moves, Xiao Yang, who was already injured, did not fall down at all. On the contrary, with the help of the huge ruler body of Shen Heavy Ruler, successfully resist every attack of Huitiani. Seeing this scene, the people outside could not help looking dull. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yang, a 6-star-and-a-half emperor, was even injured. He could burst out such a powerful force under his power. In the face of the attack of a strong emperor, at this time, he could still ensure that he would not lose in every attack, but it's really shocking. This guy. It's terrible. Is he really just a half-emperor? In my opinion, he is a monster. The crowd outside the court was filled with incredible and frightening words, which came out of the mouths of the strong fighters. Everyone looking at Xiao Yang seemed to be staring at a monster. They had never seen such a terrible person, and their hearts even doubted that the human youth who seemed to have only 6.5 stars in front of them was not a human at all, even its exposed strength is probably false. Of course, people follow suit. The words of these people are groundless. Naturally, no one dares to really believe it, but the only thing that can be confirmed is that at this moment, Xiao Yang in their eyes insisted on it in a dangerous way in the confrontation with a strong star. Boom! Suddenly, on the huge square, a huge explosion suddenly came out, and the eyes of the people present also looked at it. The person who had the accident was not Xiao Yang, who was fighting Huotiani at this time, but another person. Sun Shuo? He has lost. Has the power of the narwhal snake been so terrible? The power of this beast has reached the 4-star fighting emperor? 4-star fighting emperor. Middle stage. When all the people on the spot looked up, they found that Sun Shuo, who had fought with narwhals and snakes, was completely defeated at this moment. Above the void, the narwhal snake body perched in the void and stood proudly. The huge snake head was raised proudly. A pair of scarlet animal pupils looked down at Sun Shuo, who was hit heavily on the square below, and the scarlet snake letter vomited and hissed. In the middle of the 4-star duty period, the terrible momentum made everyone present dignified. In the face of it, even the people of the 4 families could not fight against it. When the people looked down and saw Sun Shuo, who was covered with blood and weak breath in the square below, their faces could not help but change. Especially when they saw the huge scarlet tear wound on Sun Shuo's back, the muscles on each face could not help twitching. The huge wound almost made them feel a silent pain. Although the injury was not their own, it seemed to feel the same. Sun Shuo has been seriously injured at the moment. There are only 3 of the 4 families left at the moment. Of course, although Sun Shuo has ended up seriously injured, those ordinary strong fighting emperors around don't dare to touch them easily. After all, they are 3-star fighting emperors. The thin dead camels are bigger than horses. Moreover, these people have different thoughts. Even if they do it, they won't have a good end in the end, so naturally no one will do it. As for Zhuolin at the moment, he had planned to wait for the opportunity to attack Zhuolin. When he saw the sudden change in the field, he couldn't help sinking a little. When his eyes turned, he saw that the narwhal snake had planned to rush towards Xiao Yang. Turning his eyes, Zhuolin quickly glanced at Zhuobentang and said in a deep voice, "Let's fight together. You stop the beast. I'll clean them up myself." Yes. Hearing Zhuolin's words, Zhuobentang immediately frowned and turned his mouth secretly in his heart. It was clear that there were so many opportunities before, but Zhuolin was not in a hurry to make a move. Now, when he saw the narwhal snake making a move, he felt the threat coming. With a helpless sigh in his heart, Zhuobentang moved, but he didn't dare to refute Zhuolin's meaning. When his body flew across, he rushed towards the narwhal snake. At the same time, Zhuolin turned his eyes and looked at Xiao Yang. With a twist of his face, Zhuolin's face quickly became cold. The soles of his feet fiercely stepped on the void. His body moved as if he had turned into a sharp sword. The hole broke through the void like lightning and rushed away at Xiao Yang. "Xiao Yang, I admit that I was really careless, but no one can stop me if I want to kill you. Today, it will become something in my bag." He drank with hatred in his heart. Zhuolin waved his big hand, and the fighting spirit in his palm was thin. A golden short sword with the size of the palm condensed rapidly in Zhuolin's palm. Then, Zhuolin's forward body suddenly shook, and the body that was flying fast was a few minutes faster. In a twinkling of an eye, he had caught up with Huotiani, who was fighting with Xiao Yang at the moment. At the same time, on the other side, Bai Ying, who was fighting with the North King at the moment, also saw Zhuobentang rushing towards the narwhal snake. The remaining light in the corner of his eye quickly glanced at Xiao Yang's side. Suddenly, the look in his eyes was slightly frozen, and then he gave a sneer in his heart. "Hey, Zhuolin, you are so cruel, but I'm afraid you forgot to have me." At the next moment, Bai Ying slapped back and hit him hard. He slammed into Bai Wang again behind him. This time, unlike before, under Bai Wang's fist, Bai Ying's palm seemed vulnerable. With a slight click, Bai Ying's wrist was forcibly broken by Bai Wang's fist. "Ah!" With his teeth clenched, Bai Ying's face quickly turned red, and the hoarse roar in his mouth came out sadly. At the same time, Bai Ying's body also flew backward uncontrollably at this moment, but looking at its direction, it was impartial. It happened that it was right in front of Zhuobentang, which was rushing towards the narwhal snake at the moment, but looking at the distance of hundreds of feet, it was just a blink of an eye in the eyes of the strong man fighting the emperor. As Zhuobentang's fighting spirit poured out, he was only tens of feet away from the narwhal snake at the moment. Under this distance, he was completely sure that he could intercept the narwhal snake here. Hiss! The withered hand was suddenly grasped, and suddenly, the fighting spirit between the palms surged wildly. When he grasped it again, he had condensed a long gun. As soon as his arm shook, the tip of the gun suddenly turned. With an extremely fierce momentum, he blasted at the narwhal snake. However, at this time, hiss! The sound of breaking through the air came suddenly. Without waiting for Zhuo Bentang to come back, a sudden streamer hit Zhuo Bentang heavily. Then, with a dull bang, Zhuo Bentang's original body rushed forward, but he had to stop in the void. Although there was only such a short moment, the speed of narwhal snake was enough to leave Zhuo Bentang far behind. In an instant, when Zhuo Bentang hurried back to his mind, he suddenly looked up and saw that the narwhal snake had left it far behind. Now he just wanted to catch up, but he couldn't catch up. At the thought of this, Zhuo Bentang's anger was rising. At the same time, a pair of old eyes full of fire suddenly fell in love with the white-robed man not far from the void. It was Bai Ying. White Win, what do you want to do? Zhuo Bentang's eyes were splitting. Unexpectedly, he saw that he was only one step away from the narwhal snake. At this critical moment, he would be blocked by the white Win in front of him. Shua. But then, at the moment when the voice of Zhuo Bentang's words just fell, Bai Ying in front of him just turned his body and dodged away from the void. Then, a purple-golden strange thunder suddenly pierced through the position where Bai Ying stood. Then, the target changed to Zhuo Bentang, the momentum still rushed at him. Bang! Another sudden change made Zhuo Bentang's face suddenly change. It was too late to make any response. The strange Liguang had hit Zhuo Bentang heavily. Until this time, Zhuo Bentang clearly saw that the so-called purple and gold thunder light in front of him was the North King. Then, at the moment when Zhuo Bentang finally woke up, his body was blown out. Finally, it hit the square below like a falling meteor. Although it was only a blow, it would not cause Zhuo Bentang to be seriously injured immediately. The strength of the North King was enough to make Zhuo Bentang lose combat power temporarily. On the void, Bai Ying's face turned red and stood in the void. He stared at Bai Wang with hatred. Then he looked at Zhuo Bentang angrily and roared angrily. Now you know why I met you by mistake. If your Zhuo family hadn't been willing to help, I wouldn't have been defeated by such a dead thing. If you want to sit and collect the fishermen, you're afraid it's too simple for Xiao Yan. Bai Ying looked wronged, and the roar in his mouth was actually the 3-star fighting emperor strongman called Zhuo's family. His face was iron blue. From the collision just now, Zhuo Bentang didn't really feel the strength of the North King, but from the current state, he didn't dare to underestimate the North King. It's not necessary to think about it. Zhuo Bentang can imagine the strength of the North King. Of course, if he knew that all this was done in vain, he didn't know how he would feel in his heart. At the same time, without any obstruction, the speed of the narwhal snake rushing forward was even more terrible. The huge snake mouth opened angrily and sent out a startling roar. The huge body suddenly shook, and the speed of the forward body became extremely terrible. At this time, Zhuo Lin's figure has caught up with Hua Tianyi. As the 2-star fighting emperor, the strength of the 1-star fighting emperor was no different from that of the half-emperor to Zhuo Lin. In the blink of an eye, Hua Tianyi was overtaken by Zhuo Lin. Seeing Zhuo Lin who suddenly bullied him, Hua Tianyi's expression on his face changed instantly. Xiao Yang, who had just focused on the other party, didn't understand what happened around him until now. But when he came back, Zhuo Lin had rushed hard at Xiao Yang. Bastard! Xiao Yang's life is mine. I should kill him. Hua Tianyi's face quickly became ferocious. At the same time, his body suddenly shook, and he rushed up to Xiao Yang more vigorously. At the same time, in the void on one side of the two people, the narwhal snake was rushing over here like crazy. Zhuo Lin, get out of my way! The roar of rage fell from his mouth. Hua Tianyi waved his arm and punched Zhuo Lin's face. I really think that when the strength reaches the later stage of the 1-star Do Emperor, I will be able to compete with the 2-star Do Emperor. I really overestimate my strength. Zhuo Lin was even more dismissive of this. With a wave of his big sleeve, the sharp sword gang condensed into essence in an instant. With only one blow, Hua Tianyi was not only blasted back, but also cut off the 4 phalanges of Hua Tianyi's right hand. If Hua Tianyi himself was the strong man fighting the emperor, I'm afraid the blow just made by Zhuo Lin would be enough to waste Hua Tianyi's palm. When he was frustrated, Hua Tianyi was unwilling and wanted to come forward again, but at this time, behind him, a huge shadow was like a fallen Mount Tai. What? Until this time, Hua Tianyi finally found the unicorn whale snake behind him. His face suddenly changed wildly. At the same time, the fighting spirit in his body poured out wildly without money. His 2 feet hurried on the void. The rest of his eyes skimmed the huge shadow closer behind him. Tianyi was frightened on his face and even regretted that he had lost 2 legs. Of course, Lin was also surprised. It's really frightening that the narwhal snake, which should have been stopped by Bentang, suddenly appeared behind them. In this way, the appearance of narwhal snake broke Lin's plan in front of him again. Damn! I must kill Xiao Yang. Even if you are already a 4-star fighting emperor, you can't stop it. Lin even wanted to kill Bentang here, but not to mention his strength. It was difficult for him to deal with the current situation. Lin, it's all you. You don't want to be a fisherman. Now, you finally capsized in the gutter and took yourself in. At the end of his life, Tianyi was angry. At the same time, he also laughed with a ferocious look in his eyes. Dead. You're the only one who died. I won't die. At first, the muscles on Lin's face could not help twitching, but then, Lin's face was even more resentful. Looking at Tianyi, it was also full of killing intention. Then, the body shape that had swept forward at a high speed suddenly stagnated at the moment. The 2 people who had only exceeded Tian for a short distance had only less than half a meter left in the blink of an eye. Ha! Lin, just die obediently. Tian gave a sharp smile and waved his hand, so he grabbed Lin's ankle. Get out of here. Seeing this scene, Lin immediately heard a sneer of disdain. His legs and feet twisted and his fighting spirit soared. Then, he stepped on Tianyi's chest with a heavy foot. Bang! As soon as the blow fell, the terrible fighting spirit immediately poured out. However, Tianyi could resist it. It was completely useless. The sword Qigong method of Tianjian Gate is famous for its powerful attack. With the strength of Lin's 2-star fighting emperor, the golden fighting spirit instantly condenses into a sharp blade. Although it seems ordinary, Lin is obviously prepared. Even the strong people who are both 2-star fighting emperors dare not underestimate it at one blow, not to mention Tianyi, who has only 1-star fighting emperor. Lin obviously couldn't kill Tianyi with one blow, but his purpose was obviously not here. At the same time that foot fell, Lin took advantage of the situation, and the soles of his feet severely stepped on Tianyi's chest, and his body burst out again. At the same time, on the contrary, Tianyi's body was directly sent into the shadow of blocking the sky and the sun. The shrill scream came from the shadow, and Lin's body had taken the opportunity to leave the coverage area of the shadow. When he turned his head and looked at it, the pupil in his eyes suddenly shrank, and even his whole body could not help but tremble at this moment. From now on, looking at the shadow, it was the narwhal snake's angry mouth, and Tianyi was swallowed by him just now. When I thought of the scene when Tianyi was swallowed by the narwhal snake just now, I couldn't help feeling a tumult in my heart. The muscles in the corners of my eyes twitched slightly, and even my breathing was temporarily frozen. But then, the narwhal snake's huge body twisted suddenly, and the body in its abdomen expanded rapidly. In the twinkling of an eye, the narwhal snake's huge body expanded nearly twice as much as before, and at the same time, the narwhal snake's mouth couldn't help but emit bursts of painful hissing. Swallow a strong fighter alive. Even if it is a warcraft and its strength reaches the 4-star fighter, it also has to pay a high price to really swallow it. Burp! After a while, everyone in the audience thought that the narwhal snake's body would burst. Suddenly, the narwhal snake raised the huge snake's head high, and the huge body trembled violently. Then, in its mouth, it gave a long and loud burp. The appearance of this scene instantly solidified the expression on the faces of the people present. Everyone had a wide mouth and showed an extremely stunned expression on his face. No one thought that they would burst to death and eventually evolve into this embarrassing and funny appearance. Cough. In the void, Xiao Yang, whose face was still pale, couldn't help coughing violently when he saw this unexpected scene, but in his heart, he gave a happy laugh. Fortunately, at this last critical moment, the strength of the 1-legged golden snake can be improved to such a degree. If there were no narwhal snake on this relic trip, I'm afraid Xiao Yang would be far from being able to hold up until now. Thank you. Looking up at the narwhal snake gradually recovering in front of him, Xiao Yang spit out a real word of gratitude. When the latter heard the speech, his huge body twisted slightly and hissed in his mouth, as if he was rejecting or accepting. Xiao Yang smiled knowingly. His eyes swept slowly from the latter's huge body until he moved to the tail of the narwhal snake. He found that a layer of golden energy cuticle-like crystal was gradually spreading on the whole body of the 1-legged golden snake at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang couldn't help but be surprised. He frowned and was both surprised and happy. Xiao Yang is not the first time to see this strange energy cuticle. This is often because the power in the devourer is too large, which leads to the materialization of energy. This also shows that the narwhal snake is about to enter a period of deep sleep. Once we lose the powerful combat support of narwhal snake, it will be very difficult to face the four families again. Of course, apart from these, the emergence of these energy cuticles shows that the strength of narwhal snake can continue to improve. After it completely devours these energy, I'm afraid the strength of narwhal snake can be improved to the late stage of the 5-star fighting emperor. Even if we look at the whole western region, among all the strong fighting emperors, all of them can be called the existence at the top of the pyramid. This force will undoubtedly become the World War I force when Xiao Yan opposes the four major gates in the future. Now, however, all this is just an unknown number. At this time, Zhuolin, who was above the void, also found this change in the narwhal snake. Suddenly, there was a burst of golden light in his eyes. One moment, there was a dignified face, and the next moment, there was a cold color. Ha ha ha. God helps me too. Xiao Yang, no matter how lucky you are, you can't get rid of the fate that you will die in my hands today. Zhuolin's face was ferocious. He stared at the rapidly spreading energy cuticle on the narwhal snake. His heart moved. He only heard a puff, and the surging fighting spirit surged out of his body. This video will end here.